Well, first, did you know that you could own a Buffalo Wild Wings? The first question that always pops up in my head is, what's the catch? It's like when you were a kid and the first thing your parents ask you is, how much is it gonna cost? That's my second question. My first question is, how much do these bad boys make? Well, let's rewind for a second. So in 1982, two friends had this genius idea. Let's open up a restaurant that specializes in New York style wings. I mean, I don't know how genius it is, to be honest. There's a lot of spots that sell wings. Maybe in the 80s, that was a really innovative idea. But this leads us to secret sauce number one, which is to benefit from trends. Buffalo Wild Wings benefited from being at the beginning of a trend in business innovation. It was only in 1977 that Chuck E. Cheese came on the scene. My goodness, I had no idea Chuck E. Cheese has been around since 1977. And in 1982, one of my favorite spots to go to opened up, which is Dave & Buster's. Well, that's a long time too. Dave & Buster's is older than me. Now, I just want to say for a second to give yourself a break. Stop comparing yourself to other people and some of these businesses that have been doing it longer than you. Just keep going. Anyways, the whole trend of food and fun combined was starting to catch on. For you, as you think about growing your own empire, how do you go with the current as opposed to against it? Like, what businesses and industries or ideas have the wind at their back? Think about that. Now, can you take a guess at how much B-Dubs is worth now? Over the last 41 years, Buffalo Wild Wings has grown into a powerhouse brand worth $2.4 billion. And it all started in the heart of Columbus, Ohio, just a few minutes down the road from Ohio State. Jim Disbrow and Scott Lowry filled a gap in the market by bringing New York-style wings to the Buckeye State. Their first location opened in 1982 and was originally called Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck. What the hell does that even mean? I had to look it up. It's a sandwich with roast beef that was popular in New York. Now, they must have realized it sounded whack. See what I did there? Because they later shortened the name to Buffalo Wild Wings, or B-Dubs, as us cool people call it. After 6 months, Jim and Scott brought on a third partner, Mark Lutz. And over the next 10 years, they added 6 additional locations in Ohio, Indiana, and Colorado. Then in 1992, they made one key decision that allowed B-Dubs to rapidly grow into the multi-billion-dollar brand that it is today. They franchised the company. Now, I've always said one of the fastest ways to grow a business is by leveraging the power of franchising, because you're leveraging other business owners to help grow the company. There's power on both sides though. The owners of the entire franchise system grow a massive franchise empire with hundreds or thousands of franchise owners, aka franchisees. Then the franchisees get to build their own franchise empire, owning 1 or 5 or even 64 locations, like this company, Diversified Restaurant Holdings, Inc., that is the largest B-Dubs franchisee in the world. Wait until you find out how much you can make with one B-Dubs. Then you think about building a team and a company that owns 64 of them. Phew. For example, in 1993, just 1 year after franchising, they added an additional 8 locations in Ohio alone. And by 1995, they had 48 total locations, 12 of which were corporate owned. So in the first 10 years, they opened 7 locations. But through the power of building a franchise empire, that allowed them to add 41 locations in just 3 years. Now, with the expectations of future growth, B-Dubs then made a shift in their strategy. They transitioned away from the traditional college sports bar to a more casual dining restaurant, having a clear separation from the bar and dining room in their newer locations. Then in October of 1999, B-Dubs opened its 100th location. In less than 10 years as a franchise, Buffalo Wild Wings grew by 93 locations. Which brings us to B-Dubs' secret sauce number 2. Jim, Scott, and Mark capitalized on the use of franchises to grow their business significantly faster than they ever could have on their own. And again, you can do this in 2 ways. We already mentioned it, but let's really anchor it in. You can become the franchisor and create your own brand and recruit franchisees, or you can become the franchisee. Hey, did you know that there are over 4,000 franchises just in the US alone? So finding a franchise on your own can be extremely overwhelming and confusing, trying to just Google and search and scour the internet. Top franchise lists. It's a terrible way of doing it. Well, our team at Franchise Empire has put together a list of some of the franchises that have the best economics, meaning we put together a list of franchises that show in their FTD that they're profiting over $1 million a year on average. So if you want to learn more about some of the money-making franchises that have great financials behind them and see if they are available in your area specifically, then go to franchiseempire.com/check territory and you'll be able to inquire completely for free and be able to see what's available in your area. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the video. Now, obviously there's more to success in business than just offering franchises, sitting back and collecting checks. What's really unique about B-Dubs is their ability to capitalize on gaps in the market. For example, one of the early growth strategies was to place restaurants near busy college campuses. I mean, what college student doesn't love them some good wings? Look, it becomes a need, not a want. After partying it up, you always crave something greasy and unhealthy. And as you'll see later on, this is just one of the many smart business moves B-Dubs has capitalized on, allowing them to grow into the powerhouse brand that they are today. Speaking of growth, in 2003, B-Dubs went public with 211 locations in 27 states. And on the day of their IPO, they saw a stock price increase of 35%. But here's what's crazier. Almost 20 years later, that stock price has risen by over $817,000, which means that if you put $10,000 in their stock about 20 years ago, you'd have over $81,000 today. So I bet you wish you could go back to 2003 and invest in Buffalo Wild Wings stock, don't you? Yeah, me too, but I was still in high school. But that growth isn't just because of great wings. Sure, the food is good and the use of new and innovative sauces has kept customers coming back. Sauces like Asian Zing and the famous Blazing Sauce, which even has its own challenge associated with it. If you aren't familiar with the Blazing Challenge, customers who can eat 10 wings with the Blazing Sauce in under 5 minutes get their name on the Blazing Challenge Wall of Fame, a t-shirt, and the price of their wings comped. However, the real key to B-Dubs' growth and success goes beyond the food. Now, they've really been able to carve out a significant piece of the market for two other reasons, which leads us to B-Dubs' secret sauce number 3, which is their alcohol sales. Now, sure, alcohol only equates to about 20% of their total revenue, but for B-Dubs, that's still a whopping $85 million in revenue a year. The majority of that revenue comes from beer sales. Shocking, I know. But in 2013, Buffalo Wild Wings was the largest pourer of draft beer in the country. The company takes painstaking measures to properly train its bartenders to correctly store and pour and garnish its beers. And they've also implemented a really unique 3-tiered beer system, allowing individual locations to offer their own selection of 30 beers from 3 different tiers. A national tier for large household names like Sam Adams and Miller Lite, a regional tier that varies on a state-by-state basis, and due to the increase in local craft breweries, a local tier offering local brands and beers. So this allows franchisees to carry a large variety of hand-selected beers that are from their area. But even the good wings and the great beer is still arguably not the most important factor of B-Dubs' massive success. Sure, they've got a great tasting menu, and they've got a wide variety of delicately poured beers. What else could you possibly need? Oh, how about a sweet place to hang out all day? Bringing us to B-Dubs' secret sauce number 4, which is the customer experience. Since day one, B-Dubs has been obsessed with having a top-tier customer experience. From the early days of offering affordable wings to hungry and hungover college students to playing music videos on the TVs at restaurants. So before they leaned into the sports bar theme, they actually played MTV music videos on the TV. Now, B-Dubs has always prioritized the customer experience, and they recognize that if they could create a space where people just truly want to just hang out, they could really separate themselves from other restaurants. So they transitioned to playing sports on the TVs instead of music videos. And in 2015, they were some of the first in the industry to adopt tableside tablets, allowing customers to play games and trivia at their tables, giving families an affordable place to eat and entertain the kids at the same time. They even remodeled restaurants specifically for customer satisfaction. Now check this out, this is pretty cool. Executives at B-Dubs realize that not everyone can afford expensive stadium tickets to go watch their favorite team. So they aggressively redesigned their restaurants to mimic the look and feel of a sports stadium, allowing customers to come and enjoy affordable food, good beer, and watch their favorite teams in an environment that felt like the real thing. So this strategy has really allowed B-Dubs to excel during economic downturns while other restaurants are hurting. But instead of having employees trying to juggle multiple jobs and manage the TVs, they've dedicated an entire job to making sure customers are able to watch the games that they want to see. Another unique customer experience aspect of B-Dubs
is the takeout heavy business model. So B-Dubs offers multiple ways to order food to go. You can order online through the app, or you can even call it in. And from there, you can have food delivered, and some locations even offer contactless pickup, which was huge advantage during the pandemic. Now, I believe that this focus on excellent customer service and leveraging the franchise model has been the key to the success of B-Dubs, or should we call it the secret sauce? And look, I think others would agree, because in 2017, Work Capital bought Buffalo Wild Wings for a massive $2.4 billion. To add fuel to the fire, B-Dubs has an extensive plan to acquire other food businesses to grow their portfolio. B-Dubs purchased a majority stake in R Taco and a minority stake in Pizza Rev, which is like the Subway of pizza. And according to the CEO, B-Dubs has plans to invest in up to 7 more brands in the coming years. Another interesting thing to note is B-Dubs is aggressively acquiring franchises as well. In 2018, they purchased back 57 franchise locations across Texas, New Mexico, and Hawaii, because while having franchisees provides a nice stream of royalties and quick expansion with little overhead, corporate-owned locations are equally as lucrative and allow them to have a more consistent customer experience. As of 2022, 530 of their 1,189 total locations are actually corporate-owned. So this is insanely genius. You let the franchisees get them open, take all the risk in putting up the capital and hiring and getting the locations up and running successfully, then corporate comes in and buys them up for a great value for the people who built them. It's a win-win. Now what you've been waiting for, let's talk some numbers. So the total investment for a B-Dubs is in the range of $2.9 million to $4.8 million, with a franchise fee of $12,500 to $25,000. As for sales, in 2022, the highest earning B-Dubs made $8.2 million. The lowest earning location did just over $1 million, and the average store did $3.2 million in sales. Now, while that may seem like a lot of money to be made, remember that food businesses typically have pretty slim profit margins. A 5 to 15% profit margin is pretty common in the food space. So the average location pulling in $3.2 million would produce around $320K in profit if they were doing 10%. With a hefty startup cost, that's a pretty significant barrier to entry. Now, there's a big debate going on around what's the better investment and makes more money, investing in real estate or buying a franchise. And in this video here, I break down the numbers and profits on a franchise and see how it compares to buying real estate. I think you'll find it really interesting. But I'm curious, would you ever consider opening a Buffalo Wild Wings location? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more franchise breakdowns just like this one, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. I'll see you on the next one.